You are listening to the Tallest Kaiju Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Tallest Kaiju Podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Rusteen Hondaroost. Rusteen is a filmmaker who recently released Kaiju Kid, a very wholesome, very well done stop-motion animated kaiju short film with a lot of heart and a lot of homage to some great kaiju cinema. And today we're going to discuss Giant God Warrior Approaches Tokyo, one of the very few, one of two live-action Studio Ghibli movies, shorts, I should say, but a fascinating watch, and I look forward to discussing this. Enjoy. Welcome. First things first, what was your introduction to kaiju media, and how has that affected your trajectory as an artist?
So I discovered kaiju films kind of like sideways. I was growing up in the Bay Area. I didn't know a lot of people who like watched Godzilla films or anything like that, but I was a big dinosaur kid. And so I always had, I loved Jurassic Park. I always had a large collection of dinosaur toys. But then as I grew up, I was a very politically minded kid, and I learned about, and I was also a cinephile. And so I learned about Godzilla, the original film, as this very potent meditation on Japan's, trauma after being nuked by America. And so I was like, I got to check this thing out. And I watched the original Godzilla. I think I got the disc from Netflix. I think it was that long ago. And I fell in love with that film, and I just found it to be so powerful. Although I do have to admit, at that point in time, all I had heard about the sequels was how silly and cheesy they became. So at that point, I did not dive deeper into the filmography. But it was always something I held on to, of this genre film that is, on the outside might look, a little silly, like the guy in the suit. But when you're watching it, it's just such pure filmmaking that they're able to turn this guy into a suit into a real breathing monster that actually terrifies you. And so that was something I always held on to. And then it was actually the release of Shin Godzilla that reactivated that energy in me. I'd watched some more Godzilla films, but it was that one that blew my mind and made me dive in full-heartedly to the Godzilla universe. And I've now, like a new convert to religion, I am a zealot for Godzilla over the last 10 years.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And it's funny that you mentioned the dinosaur thing. I think dinosaurs are a gateway drug to Godzilla. Because I'm pretty sure I was Jurassic Park fan when I was a kid. And then after that, you get in, especially 1998's Godzilla kind of helped me become more of a Godzilla fan, because you had that very much Raptor inspired third act. And yeah. And I think that's great. And Shin Godzilla, that's an absolutely phenomenal movie to bring you back in too, man, because that one it's something else. But I read an interview or a review that was Dr. Strangelove Godzilla, and I was like, that is not a combination of words I ever thought I would read. I need to see that. And so I managed to catch that original theatrical release on a whim. I just bought some tickets and getting to see that in a theater full of Godzilla, diehard Godzilla fans was I was oh, these are my people. Why haven't I been around these people before? So yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And was Kaiju Kid your first admittedly, I haven't checked too much into your filmography outside of Kaiju Kid, which is great, by the way. But was that like your first time really utilizing your love for Godzilla in a project, or did you play around with that before?
I, as a kid, had written I used to draw comics, and so I did some like Jurassic Park inspired things as a kid. After Jurassic World came out, I wasn't a huge fan of that movie, and I went and wrote my own like Jurassic Park-esque movie about like basically serial killer Velociraptor. But that was never something I actually thought I would get to make. And then uh, since I've moved to Los Angeles, I've like been working in the animation industry. I've worked on a couple of like kids shows, and after I finished up on one of them, I was like, I'm tired of like waiting for people to give me permission to write. Let's like go out there and what's like the thing that only I can make. And I had this idea of like transforming live action into like then a kaiju destruction, and like finding some way to like bridge that gap. And that was always a story I was like interested in telling. And but then I was like, man, I like looked into like how do you actually shoot like guy in a suit smashing up buildings. I was like, it's going to cost us so much money just to test out breaking a building to see if we can do it. So I kind of put that aside, but I still really wanted to do it. And then on kind of like just kind of by accident, I met Cami Kwan from Apartment D, and she had we just met at a museum. And I was like, hey, what do you do for work? And she's like, I co-founded a stop motion animation studio. And I was like, I'm going to talk to you about Godzilla for 1 hour and see if you run away. And if not, I'm going to pitch you this idea that I have for a movie. And she came on board, and, I was able to luckily use this experience I had working in animation to get to make something of my own. So it was kind of like this was always my blank check idea of like stop motion Godzilla movie. But Guillermo del Toro wouldn't answer my phone calls, so I had to go and do it myself.
Right. And the amazing thing about doing the stop motion, which is it's so charming, and it's such a novel idea, I think nowadays, to still be utilizing it, because the full circle thing about that is, 1933 we had King Kong stop motion animation. It was a part of that time. King Kong was one of the direct influences to Godzilla. I forget which of the creators it was, but he had went on record and said that King Kong was one of those. So, being able to see a Godzilla style film or whatever in stop motion, I think is pretty awesome. Because we never got that.
Yeah, there's like little moments of that original film where they use like some stop motion for Godzilla, but like they're so brief, and they very quickly like moved on to just doing the suit actors. And it was always something that I was like just feeling like that tactility of stop motion combined with like the destruction of the genre, I thought would be really satisfying to people. There's a sequence at the end of Godzilla vs. Gigan where he's stomping around in the theme park with all these like little miniature buildings around him, and that was part of what we kind of like what kind of crystallized the idea of like seeing these little miniature buildings is so fun. Like that's what we all that's one of my favorite things about the genre, is just constructing these environments that then get destroyed. And that's one of the great things about stop motion, is like the tactility of all that. So getting to combine them into this was very fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast too. And it kind of reminds me, like, I've got a 6-year-old, and with how often kids will build something and then just like destroy it right away and then build it again. There's something to that, a lot of fun to that. But like I said, great short. We'll talk more about it through here, but how about you introduce us to the subject of today's episode?
Yeah, so I was thinking about like, what are the films that inspired Kaiju Kid and what were some of the films that we referenced. I've already, shouted out like Shin Godzilla and Gigan, but there was one that was like a little bit more tucked away. Many people haven't heard of it, and I thought this might be a good opportunity to get to highlight it. It's called Giant God Warrior Appears in Tokyo. It's the most straightforward title I've ever heard for a movie. And it is a live action Studio Ghibli, technically a prequel / spin-off of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, directed by Shunji Higuchi and written by Hideaki Anno. And should I like go through the plot? It's only like it's only a 9-minute short, 10 minutes with credits. And in the story, there's like a woman giving a narration about the version I've seen had no subtitles on it. I only just discovered the version with subtitles in it. But according to the Wikipedia, the narrator talks about how her brother has shown up and warns her that there's going to be some kind of apocalyptic event tomorrow, and she doesn't believe it. But then there's these glowing orange spores that appear all throughout Tokyo, which then take the form of a giant god warrior, which then begins to walk around the city and then open its mouth and fire off a laser beam that destroys all of Tokyo, and until like all of Tokyo becomes engulfed in like hellfire. And we end on like an image of an entire legion of god warriors now, in a shot that is meant to replicate the flashbacks in Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. So this is a rare live action Studio Ghibli film I guess was created as a part of like a tokusatsu like museum exhibit, where they wanted to just show off all the things we're talking about, like the craft of bringing these performances to life, and then got released as a part of Evangelion 3.0. So if you saw that in theaters, you might have gotten to see this short play with it, but otherwise you just have to find it on Dailymotion.
Find a link somewhere for it. But I hadn't even heard of it until you mentioned it, and I felt embarrassed because Nausicaa is my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, and the fact that I haven't seen this prequel to it, because in it they talk about, what was it, the 7 days of fire or whatever, and this is the inciting incident of how that all came to be, 1,000 years before the movie. But it's very, I think it's very much an indicator as to how that team, let me see what this guy, Shunji Higuchi and Hideaki Anno, when they did Shin Godzilla in 2016, you see elements of that in this one. That was one of the amazing things to watch, being such a fan of Shin Godzilla. It's like, oh shit, like, hey, they were cooking years before,
in hindsight it's like trial run of like, what if we let these two make a real Godzilla movie. I don't know if that was something that they had secretly intended. Was that part of their plan of like, let's get Ghibli to throw a little bit of money into making this happen, and we can then like send that over to Toho, or if it's just that Toho responded to it and thought that they could then do it. But that using the imagery of Nausicaa and like turning that into like a kaiju film was really fascinating to get to see, and it's just such a little tightly crafted love letter to the genre, while still containing all the things that fans of Anno would recognize, that like apocalyptic dread, even if you're watching it without the subtitles, as both of us did before the recording. You still get the feeling that like humanity is coming to an end, and something else is coming down the pike.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, luckily there's enough context, which funnily enough, so quick side tangent, speaking of no subtitles, when minus one and Godzilla versus Biollante, before those got a North American 4K release, I ordered them from
Mhm.
Japan. And minus
Uh-huh.
one, I had seen it a few times in theaters actually. So by the time I could watch the 4K, I got the gist of what was going on, the conversation. But
Yeah.
Biolante, I was just kind of like, going into it blind and just appreciating the look of it. But yeah, so it's becoming a trend. I'm realizing watching a lot of these without subtitles, but I'm not complaining. It's great.
Yeah, I mean that's like I said before, like this is such pure filmmaking that it's all contained within like the visuals and the camera that you really do get everything you need to know about the story just in the way that it's composed. And then the dialogue is there to just add a little
Right.
context on top, but you don't really need it to capture the emotion of the piece. Like I have watched Shin Godzilla so many times now that I don't even read all of the subtitles because there's just so many of them in that
Yeah.
movie, and I can just enjoy the decor of every office room that they are sitting in.
Right, right. And you already know that it's just a bunch of like political BS that they have to get through just to
Hmm.
do anything in that movie. Um but yeah, I love that. And it, what, in hindsight it makes sense to make a kaiju thing out of the giant god warriors, because like they're these massive behemoths, right? And they talk about this
Hmm.
being a post-apocalyptic world, so it's like, okay, what do we do? Let's show how this actually happened. And I love how in the movie, in the 1984 movie, they're like all basically extinct or like,
Hmm.
eroded, decrepit. I think there's one that's still alive. But for the inciting incident to be them, and then by the time like 1,000 years later, they're just like withered away and just not even there anymore. It's just it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, they loom so large over the entire story, and yet they only show up like in little pieces. Um, Last year, I finally went and read the original manga that got released in this like big giant box set, and even there, like there's still such a small part of it. And the iconography of them is so cool, and the symbolic like role they play in the story as far as being like the thing that destroyed humanity and has like plunged us into this apocalyptic world, but then are rediscovered by the remnants of humanity who then try to use them again to destroy the other parts of humanity is like that's just so human, like
Yeah.
we use the nukes to kill each other, and if we successfully use the nukes to end the world, like 500 years from now or whatever, what if people found the nukes again, they would use them again,
Yeah.
um and so yeah, here they're just like, so seeing them in their peak at their strongest is so scary, while also being like very beautiful in its own way. That's what I love about Nausicaa is how like, yes, this post-apocalypse is like horrifying. There's giant bugs everywhere. People are scraping by. But what Nausicaa sees in the film is that like within the miasma is like this new beautiful world that we could all live in together if we leave the world that we once knew behind. And I found that to be really powerful. And with this film, we get to see like what was the last moments of Earth before all of that happened. Was really really lovely.
Yeah, yeah, it was It was a very comforting movie to watch. Just seeing how the world ended. But you know
But
what?
there's something so satisfying of the way they
Yeah,
like, animate everything and
it looked
and
so
seeing it all
good.
go there.
Yeah, it looked so good. And you know what? Something that is so fascinating is Hideaki Anno and Hayao Miyazaki had a relationship before. Anno was an animator on the 1984 movie,
Mm-hmm.
and Miyazaki he designed the giant god warrior. So I
Yeah.
love the little crisscross there. And I like to think that they're like besties. You know, they show each
Yeah.
other's work because like you got Miyazaki, who eventually started developing a little more wholesome, but
Hmm.
still beautiful films, while Anno went into Neon Genesis Evangelion and was like, which I think that the Giant God Warriors must have been an inspiration with
The
the
angels.
angels. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I
And
love how it all intersects. That's my favorite thing about this, is how all
and
these.
Ono is the lead voice actor in The Wind Rises
Yes.
too.
Yep.
So like, yeah, they're despite occupying very different sides of the anime industry, like Miyazaki is very much like the person that we hold up as like the most wholesome animator out there. He creates these cozy worlds filled with whimsical beings that you just wish you could like hug. And then meanwhile, Ano is the most depressed man who's ever lived.
Yep.
But they're that synergy. I think in Nausicaa you see the most Ano like Miyazaki film in a way. That it's a very heavy. It has a very heavy heart in it. Even as it is exploring the same kinds of like fantastical worlds that we get to see in stuff like Spirited Away or The Boy and the Heron.
Right. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny how we what was it? We went from Nausicaa, and then there was Grave of the Fireflies was a couple years later, which is just
Mhm.
gut-wrenching. My God. I love it, but it's a hard rewatch.
I,
And
I, I still haven't seen it because it's so sad no
oh
one will
yeah.
watch it with me. And I just like can't imagine like putting that on alone at home. I'm like, I need someone to watch this with me.
It might be a good like counter watch to The Wind Rises, because The Wind Rises was
Hmm.
World War II as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or something. It was around the same
Hmm.
time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Um, and then Princess Mononoke, that was that the late '90s, I think,
Yeah.
because that one
Or
was
you mean like
pretty
when it was made or
re-
when?
when it was released.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because that I think capped off the darkness in Miyazaki, and even there you
Hmm.
kind of got a, what was it, the forest god or something, the
Hmm.
forest goddess, got a little bit of a kaiju thing going there.
Yeah,
Um,
it becomes a giant like lumbering beast as well.
yeah, and then after that, I think Studio Ghibli was like, how about we cool it a little bit, take it down, let's be a little bit more let's
Hmm.
focus on the beauty, not so much
Yeah.
the intensity, but um but getting back on Ano and Higuchi, or Shinji Higuchi, they could, maybe they still could, but they should have given us a live action Gundam movie before anybody else, because Anno has worked on Gundam for
Hmm.
decades now, and even I haven't seen the most recent one, which is like GQUUUUUUX. I don't know how
Yeah,
I'm
I
supposed to
just saw
say
that.
it. Yeah. Um, but they'd be an awesome team to give us like a live action version of that. I think that would be really great. Especially before, because I think America's giving the first official live action.
Yeah,
It
it
should
would
have
be
been them.
very funny. It would be so funny if they said the Sydney Sweeney Gundam movie is going to be directed by Hideaki
Oh,
Anno. I would just die laughing if that came across Deadline.
yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that like Gundam is still uh culturally relevant enough that maybe they are holding on to the rights to like a live action film a little tighter and who, Sydney Sweeney has the clout to get her hands on it. But yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, we got Higuchi and Anno's like little trilogy of Shin films, which are all so unique while also still like kind of playing in the same world, and getting to see like their version of like Gundam would be rad as hell, because we got a kaiju, we got a superhero, we got a mutant man, we need a robot.
Yes.
None of those have a giant robot in them.
Yeah, give us the mechs. You're right, give us the mechs.
Although now that I say it out loud, I'm like, when are we going to get here live action Neon Genesis movie is a little scary to me. One day they're going to announce that, and I just pray that it's not like starring some like CW star.
Hopefully it's Hideaki Anno. Hopefully he's the one who's going to be helming that, because he's done so much. Like he what was it? He had his trilogy of the Neon Genesis films.
Mm-hmm.
Was that first one? Was that basically like the series that was condensed into a movie, and then
technically it's like a quadrilogy? There's like 4 of them, and like the rebuild films, and the first one is more or less the opening episodes of the show, and then in the second one things start to splinter off a little bit. And then the third and the fourth ones just go completely in new directions. Very much films that are kind of daring their audience to like them. Like this, you think this is what you want. So and Anno directed live action Eva would, considering how crazy the rebuild films got, I can only imagine what a live action one would do.
Yeah, that's the only person I would even trust with it, and I hope that he owns the rights and he's just got them like in a death grip,
I hope so. Although there is like a part of me that's like, I feel like one day we're gonna see like Alex Garland to adapt Neon Genesis. I feel like I can just like imagine that happening. Like he'll sweet talk Anno into to giving up the rights, and we'll see if maybe that'll happen after his Elden Ring movie.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say too. If he's able to kick ass with that, then yes, give him the keys to whatever you want. If you can make Elden Ring work, you can make Neon Genesis work, I think. So he's you're right. I think he's one of the few that you could trust.
I'm calling that shot now. If any listeners see this headline a few years from now, remember I called it first.
Absolutely. But I just in going back to this very long short film, 9 minutes. I love the simplicity of it. Like, when you think kaiju, you never see a kaiju short film unless, of course, like, Kaiju Kid, or you got like these almost like proofs of concept in a sense, that's why shorts in general are kind of made, and even back in 2012. But just the fact that they're like, hey, you want to do like 10 minutes and just like have these things destroy the world, and release it with what was it, that third Neon Genesis movie or whatever, and they just ran with it, and I love the ambition with that. But it pisses me off that they didn't just make a full feature with it, because you could have explored like the survivors afterwards, because obviously people persisted through the 7 days of fire or whatever, and that would have been a really compelling story too, I think, just to kind of get tidbits as to how that survival went.
So like, I wonder, I would have loved to have seen that, and especially because of how like this short is able to use like the practical, like it's pretty much all done in with practical effects, except for the angel wings at the end were redone with CG. And so, I would have loved to have seen a feature film version of it. Although I do remember reading that like Shin Godzilla originally had a practical version of Shin that they didn't end up using in the final film because like they didn't feel like it meshed right. And so like there's a part of me that's like, have we lost the art of shooting, you know, with actors in suits and with like these practical kaiju? But like you watch this film and it's there, so we know that they can do it. And yeah, getting to see a more elaborate version of this would be great because it really does whet your appetite. One of the things we were very careful about with Kaiju Kid was we wanted it to feel like a complete story, that like you watch it and you feel fulfilled by the end of it. And part of that was like making sure the story has like a progression to it of like, you know, it's about a sibling rivalry that turns into kaiju destruction. And so we wanted it to have like, you know, that inciting incident and then all the fun and games and then what's like the resolution at the end. And that's one thing that this short does not do exactly. It's much more of like a tech demo,
right?
Of like, because I guess what the exhibit was you could go and like walk through the cityscape that they had built and then watch the film that they shot in there. Was like, seemed like the idea. I found like an old video of like somebody's like little camcorder recording of like walking through the exhibit. So it seems like that's what like the goal of this short was just to like demystify the process of making the film. But they did such a damn good job at it that I want them to go even further.
Yeah, and you know about the suit thing. I think Hayao Miyazaki was in the suit of the giant. That's what he's credited as, I think, on IMDb. So I'm pretty sure they dressed him up in it or something.
That is amazing. What I would give for a photo of Hayao in there, because I found another video that was like some kind of news coverage about the filming of this short, but they didn't show any of the God Warrior in it. I think maybe they got some kind of direction of like, you're only allowed to show us blowing up the buildings. That's it.
Right.
That's amazing. I missed that was him in there. He must have been having a great time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we when we were shooting like the live action portion of the film, like we have our little kids like wear this like dinosaur Godzilla costume, and I told them like beforehand, like you're joining a long lineage of suit actors with this film, so you know none of your friends are ever going to get to say that they played a real, you know, kaiju. Only you're going to get to say that.
Yeah, and that I mean, it's totally true too. Like it's a very esteemed role that the thing that I love about the fandom of kaijus, and when you go to somewhere like G Fest, is that there's such an appreciation for all the suit actors. And something that I hadn't realized is there's this actor, Kurt Carley. He was the suit actor in the 1998 Godzilla. So they had a guy in a suit. And I thought that was amazing that, you know, at least they did that. You know, at least they were able to do that a little bit. And about Shin Godzilla, how you said they were going practical, I appreciate that even the CG Godzilla in it looks like it could have been someone in a suit.
Yeah,
the way that it moves, and even the pre-evolution flopping around, that could have easily been like, you know, some sort of practical thing that they created.
And the way the eyes look like they're just kind of glued onto the sides of his head it's all so tactile, you know, and it doesn't matter that it's not, you know, 100% realistic. Like that's one of the things that I really love about this short is that, like, yes, we see like some live action humans walking around like at the beginning, but then after a certain point, the dog is like a little toy dog moving up and down, you know? And all the people are these kind of like cardboard cutouts that are standing still, looking up in shock at the God Warrior. And so that was one of the things that we kind of took inspiration from, was like when you stylize the way that like we see things that are real, you buy into it more than when you try to make it look 100% realistic. And it also just makes your life easier as a filmmaker, that you're not like, this person has, these people all have to move around in the scene. No, it's fine. Let them just be little cutouts, because that's not what we're really looking at anyways. We're going to be looking at the God Warrior shooting a laser out of his face.
Right. And speaking of that, how long did it take to construct all of those elements of Kaiju Kid?
So we spent about 2 months just working on the storyboards. I had like a script written out, but once it kind of changes into the stop motion sequence and he starts destroying things, it literally just said insert 3 to 5 minutes of kaiju destruction here, because I was just like, I don't know what's possible, so we spent about 2 months, my animation director Cami and I, just going back and forth on, like, I basically wrote out a list of bits that I thought would be funny. I was just like, these are gags, these are moments, these are types of shots, these are moments that we could parody from different Godzilla films, like, him going through the telephone wires was like, we got to do a version of that. And so I sent that over to her and I was just like, divide this into 3 categories of, like, we can do this shot. We can do this shot if we change it in some way, or there's no way we can do this shot. And I am so lucky that she put literally everything in the we can do this category. And so then it just became about sequencing them together to tell like a cohesive story. And also, we're a scrappy film. She was juggling like other paying projects and at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that like we were both on the same page about what the we were going to be executing together. And so yeah, we spent like 2 months just on the storyboards, like the picture book version of the movie, that I then went and like I took some score from like Son of Godzilla, and I took like the original Godzilla theme and I like put that all underneath it to really make sure we were getting the right feel that we wanted. And then once we felt good about that, we spent about another 2 months fabricating the puppets and also fabricating like the sets. A lot of our kaiju fans have instantly clocked how we made our stop motion rig for the kaiju. We took one of the more high-end Godzilla figures and used it as our skeleton to then create our own legally distinct kaiju. I want to make it clear, he is not Godzilla. He is Mr. Kaiju. He is Kaiju-san. Don't sue me, Toho.
It's like that joke from Goldmember. Like,
exactly.
Oh, it's got no. It looks like Godzilla, but it's not.
we should run like it is Godzilla. Yeah. Exactly. You should still run from Mr. Kaiju. So, then what happened was, we have live action, we have animation, and I wanted the toy that we were using as the rig to also be there in the live action shoot, to help bridge that gap, to really make it clear like what's kind of happening. So what we did was we made sure we shot all of the stop motion before we did the live action, because I knew we were going to be putting it into the hands of children, and I was like, I don't want to like come back all busted up, and then we're like, wait, we need to do retakes. So in the end, we only took about like, because we were on the same page and we had such a clear vision of what we were trying to do, it only took about 2 months to animate the entire like 5-minute sequence. It was originally only supposed to be 4, but then as Cami was animating it, things were like, he's a lumbering beast. Some shots were like going on a little longer, and we had some ideas of like stuff we could change. And so she very gracefully gave me an extra minute of footage for free. And then when we finished that, we had at the same time been planning out our live action shoot. We only had 1 day to shoot in our location with 2 kids. shooting about 5 pages of, dialogue and action. So my cinematographer, Andrew Doherty, and I like worked together on that. And then we spent about 2 months editing, the live action. The animation came like, pretty much in the sequence that we thought it would be in, thanks to the storyboards. But then the live action part, we needed to like re-edit that into like a new kind of story. Originally, when the kids are like playing with the toys, that was going to be like a whole little mini kaiju movie of like the dolls like talking, and then the kaiju stomps on them, and then we pull out to reveal that it's the kid breaking the toys. But we realized like, no, we need to like connect emotionally with this kid like right away. So we changed things up a bit there. So then it was, music and sound design that took a long time. That was the part of the process I had the least connection to before. Working primarily as a writer, I know how to put the story together, but then making it sound good was a real learning curve. But I had a great composer and a great sound designer who made it, painless. And so in total, it took about 11 months from storyboards to final export. So just under a year to bring, this movie to life.
Yeah, and I think it's really a, like most of these stories of filmmaking, it's really a beautiful testament to just how hard people work, and people doing things, people, especially in indie, I see a lot, even on some of my projects, it's like you've got people working for free, but they're like putting their hard work into it, and it's like, they know at the end of the day they're not getting shit for it, unless somehow it blows up, but the chances of that are slim, right? So I really love that, because it's a testament to just how, I don't know, resilient we are as creators, and people are.
Yeah,
and they do it for the love of the game,
And there's so many amazing people out there who are doing amazing work, and everybody just wants to make cool stuff. And it's much easier to ask people to come on board for little to no money if it's something really rad.
Yeah.
And so the process of putting the crew together was just finding, the kaiju lovers and the stop motion lovers and the kids at heart who related to this story and were as excited to be a part of it as I was. And so that was one of the biggest learning, biggest pieces of advice that, I have now, of just like, if you can find like the story that makes you the most excited, and you can find other people who are also excited about it, like there's nothing you can't do. You'll figure out a way to make that story come to life. It just might, be a little more difficult.
And it might take a while too.
Yeah, it might take a while. Exactly.
What are the next steps with Kaiju Kid? Because right now it's on Omeleto, correct?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. Do you have it in festivals? Are you doing like a festival circuit with it? And, do you have all that fun stuff?
We spent pretty much all of last year traveling around with Kaiju Kid at different film festivals. So we got to play at we like had our premiere at the LA Animation Festival, and then we got to play. It's funny, like, because this short like straddles like a couple different like it straddles the line between being like an animated short or a nerd short. So we've gotten to play for like many different types of audiences. So like we played at Credo 23, which is like an anti-AI film festival, and they were all very much like, they loved like, again, that tactility, like how it was handmade. But then we also got to play at like the San Diego Comic-Con Film Festival, and we played at G-Fest last year.
You were at G-Fest last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, shit, yeah, because it was my first time going last year, and
same.
I never, I didn't watch any of the movies that they played downstairs, but shit, I could have watched this a while ago.
You could have watched it a while ago. It's true. They had it. They played us right before the Ishiro Honda documentary, which was really lovely to get to like, play right next to the man himself. And Yeah, I highly recommend the short film room if you want a place to, sit down.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to do that sometimes at a convention. That was my first time going as well. But my wife and I went and we had a great time. They even got a tattoo while we were there. They got a Kamada-kun tattoo from one of the artists in the tattoo alley.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
highly recommend folks go to G Fest. It was a lovely time. So but yeah, we did our festival run, and now we're ready to premiere it online, so that the whole world can get to see it. That was one of the pieces of advice I got when we made the film, was like, this kind of like festival strategy was not something that I was really aware of when we like set out on it, but it's kind of like applying to college, where you pick out your top choices and your fallbacks and your safeties, and you roll the dice and see where how far your hard work is going to get you. But at the end of the day, like the right audience is going to find your film. And so yeah, we're on Omeleto now, and it's been getting a great response, and I'm so glad to get to connect with all the kaiju fans all over the world. It's been really lovely.
Yeah, and it really is it's been, in my experience, it's been such a cool fandom to be a part of, because I've been a lifelong Godzilla fan, but like I said last year, I was like, oh, there's a Godzilla convention, and I live in Illinois, so that shit's been
You have no
close
reason
forever.
to not know that was happening. 30 years you could have been going.
And one of my cousins is also a big Godzilla fan, and he's like, yeah, I went to G-Fest like when I was a kid. And I was like, well, where was my invite? Like, we talked when we were kids. Why weren't you bringing me to it? But no, it's really cool to be able to be a part of that. And what's your next thing that you want to do then?
I have been working on like a couple different scripts and stuff that I'd love to make. Yeah, I want to make another short. I want to make a feature. I would love to get to do something in stop motion again, but I used a lot of favors up to get this movie made, so I'm going to try to make the next one something that's a little bit more down to the ground, if you know what I mean. But I wrote a script about like stealing Pokemon cards, and I'm like, that feels like a movie that needs to exist. So if you listen to this, don't steal my idea. You can also tell your Pokemon card stealing story. But yeah, I'm working on some scripts and working on the next short. I would love to get to do like feature length kaiju film at some point. I've had a lot of great meetings where folks have talked about like the various kaiju related stuff that they're making, and I hope those all come out, because the original Godzilla and the original series was very much like a part of a broader network of like kaiju films, and it's not all just the one guy. This is a genre that we can all take part in. So yeah, I'm excited to get to see the future of this genre and get to have played, a small part in it.
Yeah, and I definitely think you'd have a shoe in, just because you could show on your resume like, oh, I did a kaiju thing, and it was it was successful. And have you ever heard of the Marvel hero Kid Kaiju?
Yeah, because when I was Googling, like, has anyone else made a thing called Kaiju Kid, that kept showing up.
Yeah, and it's not similar. It's just he could conjure monsters, but
yeah,
I want Marvel to do that, or I want someone to be able to do that, because that would, I think that would be another good, like, I guess you could call it gateway drug if you tap into the superhero market, but you have it like a beautiful love story to the kaiju market. I think there's something really great you could get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just I'm trying to think of the most recent non-Godzilla, non-Monsterverse kaiju thing. The host kind of, but the host, it's a smaller creature.
Yeah, I
You
mean it's
know?
still very much like a kaiju film, I feel like, but yeah, and even that was like what, like 2004 or something.
Damn, I
I
didn't even
feel
think. I thought it was. Damn, yeah, you're right. That's over 20 years at this point.
2006, I was close.
Okay.
I feel like the last like non-Godzilla kaiju film was the film Colossal. Do you
Oh shit.
remember
Yep.
that?
Anne Hathaway.
Uh, yeah, that's like the last one I can think of. That's 2016. Yeah. Um, but there's folks out there. I've gotten to hear from, you find all the Godzilla lovers in the filmmaking world when you make something like this, which has been part of the fun. So there's a lot of people making like really amazing like independent stuff too that is so fun and so filled with so much like love and also knowing jokes about the genre that
Mm-hmm.
are always amazing. Oh, Pacific Rim.
Oh,
Done.
duh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. The first one we don't count the second one, but the Netflix series too, I think is actually pretty good. I
I
preferred that to the second movie.
I never got around to watching the Netflix one. They are supposedly working on a prequel show for Amazon Prime, so I'm
Live
curious
action?
to see. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit. Okay.
So Amazon loves to throw a lot of money at these IP adaptations. So I'm hoping that'll be a good one.
Do you know who's show running it? Or you just heard that it's coming?
Eric Heiser, I never know how to say his last name. He's the guy who wrote Arrival, and he also did the
Oh.
Shadow and Bone series on
Okay.
Netflix. So in very good hands. A show I'm very, very excited about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope that since we're kind of getting a renaissance with, Godzilla -1, now we're getting -0. I heard
Mhm.
that we're supposed to get a follow-up to Shin Godzilla. I don't know if I've heard anything
Yeah.
reputable about it, but I hear that's supposed to be happening too. And the MonsterVerse is still going. So
Hmm.
I want there to be like not so much like what happened with superheroes, but it would be cool for there to be more giant monster flicks in the theater.
Yeah, because again, like it's everything that like makes filmmaking special. That like you can make us believe that this like giant towering beast is real. And as much as like and as our like technology has expanded and become all the better at bringing these things to life, we're seeing that like a relatively scrappy film like -1 can compete with all the other blockbusters that are out there. And so yeah, that makes it so that anyone can make a kaiju film now, which was not necessarily true before because again making those buildings is very annoying.
Yeah, I could believe that. And then like what they probably
you
experience is when you break them and you got to put it back together if you didn't get the shot right.
Yeah, you can only really smash them once. That was
Yeah.
the thing that was so scary to me when we were like talked about doing it live action. All live action was just like wait, you smash it and then it's smashed. What about take two?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the charm of it. That's the,
Hmm.
it's high risk, high reward. But yeah, I hope we see a lot more of that, But before I let you go here, is there anything else like you want to plug? Do you have socials? Obviously, Kaiju Kid, I'll link to the YouTube for it, but is there anything else cooking that, people should know about?
Yeah, you can follow me on whatever your social media vice of choice is. If you Google Rusteen Hondaroost, I'm the only person who shows up. You enter that into any of the platforms, I'll show up. I'm couch.potato.91 on Instagram. But the other thing I like to plug is I host a podcast as well. It is my two fandoms are Godzilla and Star Wars, and so I host a podcast called Andorks. that is rewatching the show Andor. What we've done is we have broken up each episode into 7-minute chunks, and we're going through the series scene by scene. So if you've seen the show Andor, I would love to invite your listeners to check us out. We're called Andorks. You can find us, wherever you find podcasts. We're on social media at Andorks Pod. And so very much coming from my co-host and I are both like screenwriters, and we also both work as like political organizers. And so that show is like a combination of all the things that, we know and love. And so we're crawling very slowly through everything the show has to say. And it's been a lot of fun. We just recorded some really great episodes with some great guests, and that's the thing I'd like to plug.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I did notice that. Yeah, I didn't I'm not caught up on Andor. I love it though, but catching up on series is something that's just really, really rough. But
yes,
I did notice that, and I think I did follow it on Spotify. Because
cool.
I love the name, and I'm surprised I forgot about it, because Andorks, I love that. That's such a funny name. It's so good.
When we came up with that name, we're like, we got to do this show. The name was too good. We couldn't let someone else steal it. It's been a lot of fun. It's a show. I am clearly biased when I say it is quite good and well worth anybody watching. There are no kaiju in Andor, unfortunately. There are some kaiju elsewhere in Star Wars, though. So if that's what you're looking for, you can watch, Clone Wars and stuff, and you'll find a Zilla beast in there. But Andor is a show that I love, and getting to talk about it with people that I love has been very fun. I've just turned my entire life into Godzilla and Star Wars, basically. Living the dream of teenage Rusteen.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, those are both amazing sandboxes to just like explore and talk about, because there's so much to talk about. So that's awesome.
And again, that tactility of those worlds, like
yes.
those are the two things that always draw me in. Of like, if you appreciate like that production design, like there's nothing like Andor. And similarly, like the Godzilla films are also like tangible and real, even when they're chintzy and silly and goofy. So that's my life right now. Is these two things.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Rusteen. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I loved Kaiju Kid. Thanks for chatting with me. This was great. It was great being able to experience Giant God Warrior Appears in Tokyo, the shortest movie title I've ever seen. But yeah, thanks, man. I really enjoyed.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to meet a fellow stan of Godzilla.